Hey, so how's everyone doing? This week, I want to try to link a few things together. Some ideas from the sermon on Sunday, a couple things we talked about in the after party on Tuesday, and a little bit of how that's affecting me and playing out in my week right now. On Sunday, we were talking about gossip, and I did a few things in that sermon. I talked about good gossip, the ways that we share our story with each other. This is really what comes naturally to us. We think of gossip in negative terms. I definitely talked about that too. The ways that gossip can other each other. It can push someone away and close down our boundaries, how that's never good for us, it's never healthy for us, and it's exactly what Jesus resists and pushes back against. But at the same time, speaking about each other, telling stories to each other, this is sort of a core human social function. It's the ways that we crowdsource our intelligence about each other. It's the way that we build our stories. And if we do it right, it's actually the ways that we expand our story. So hold on to that. Then Tuesday, we had the after party, and Bobby and I were talking a bit about our weeks, and I talked about how I'm kind of getting to the end of this online church thing. I'm kind of done with it a little bit. I know that the end is not anywhere near. I mean, we're going to be in this stage for quite a while, at least here in Calgary, but this was the first week where it really started to feel like the novelty of it all was wearing off and wearing really thin for me. I think for me, having so much work that could be shifted to online gave me a lot of problems to solve. And so I was able to keep myself busy. I was able to keep myself working. I was able to keep myself with a project in front of myself. And that kept me going. In fact, I really like that kind of thing. It just fits well with my personality. Problem solving, entrepreneurship, all of this kind of stuff is fun. But now all of that was through and I'm just kind of over it. Like I want to go back to my old job. I want to go back to my real job. I want to be in the room with people. I want to hug people. I want to give them a handshake. And I know that may not ever be coming back the same way, but a fist bump or whatever. I just wanted to do the way that I used to pastor, all of that again. I was running out a bit of an energy. And so I talked about that kind of openly because I think a lot of us are starting to feel that way. I mentioned that my son, who's 6 years old, seems to be showing that he's starting to feel that way. The fact that he hasn't been at school, he hasn't seen his friends is starting to wear on him. And we're seeing his emotions sort of build up in different ways right now. But then this week, I got an email from someone in the community. If you know who you are, then thank you so much for that. But it talked about the ways that what we're doing here at Commons, even the conversations that Bobby and I were having, the ways that we have been open about sharing what is happening in us, around us, through us, in the community, has been really meaningful for those people. To connect with a Jesus-centered Christianity. It really is open and welcoming, that really does try to center ourselves back on this story of Jesus, to remember that we will never understand God. We will never see the divine more clearly than we do in the grace and the welcome and the peace of Jesus. This was really meaningful for them. It was this really beautiful moment where, in a moment where I was sort of getting to the end of my rope and feeling a little done with all of this online church stuff, I got this story that someone began to tell of the ways that they were interacting with the work that we're doing. And this is the beauty of how all of these things come together. That we gossip about each other. We tell stories about each other. This person was telling all of their friends and meeting together and watching Commons online. And sharing that story with me intersected with a moment in my story where I was telling about what was happening in my home. And when we tell stories in ways that expand the possibility for connection, when we refuse to close things down and shut things off, our gossip actually becomes a blessing to us. I tell my story, you tell me about how that impacted your story. That telling impacts me and it gives me new energy to continue in what I'm doing. And this is what we're doing for each other all the time. And I think now it becomes even more important because we're not getting the opportunities to gossip well right now. We're not getting the opportunities to do what comes naturally to us right now, which is to speak to each other about each other. And so here's my encouragement this week as we end this series, My Big Loud Mouth, and we move on to something new on Sunday, is that you go out of your way to gossip well. You find ways to tell stories about the people who are impacting you, helping you, encouraging you, shaping you right now. Maybe that is calling someone up and telling them about a book that you're reading and why it has been such a blessing for you. Maybe that's sharing some of the videos that we're creating here at Commons with people. Hey, here's a new way to think about the Jesus story, a Christianity that perhaps you thought you had to leave behind. Perhaps that is calling someone up that you miss and just telling them, hey, I wish I could see you, and I know I can't right now, but I want you to know how deeply your absence has impacted me and how much that tells me I need you in my life. These kinds of stories about each other, the thing that comes most naturally to us as social beings created in the divine image of relationship and love. When we do these things, when we participate in them well, we become more human, we become more in touch with the God who is in us at the core of our being. It's about recognizing the divine in each other. It's about drawing close to that. And it's about recognizing that relationship, connection, sharing stories, being together, even when we're apart. This is the thing that comes most naturally to us as beings made in the image of a God who is divine relationship at God's core. So encourage someone this week, send them a story, tell them a story, reach out and talk to them. Maybe you'll find yourself renewed by the energy that you share with someone else. Because this is what we do as human beings. We feed off the energy that we share, and that gossip, when it's good, is holy and sacred, so do it well.